Now we have to calculate the space or area that is required for establishing an outlet. For example, I have decided to open an outlet in a residential area or commercial area, whatever may be the case. Now I need to know that how much space do I need to establish this outlet. Okay. How do we get to know what space is? So for that, space required for dining space is not the total area that is required, it is only a space required for dining, that is where your seating area consists of. Okay, that can be calculated if you have a number of covers required in the restaurant and a space required for one cover. If I know these two things, I can calculate the space required for dining. But now the problem is that how much is a number of covers required? On what basis do I decide that how many covers do I need? I mean, it's supposed to be a 10 cover restaurant, is it supposed to be 100 cover restaurant? Okay, how do I come to a conclusion? The second problem is also that I also need to know space required for one cover. On average, it may not be same all the time, but on average, how much space do I need for one cover, right? So if we know these two things, we can calculate the space required for dining, which will give us some kind of a idea or guidance that how much should be the total area required. Let us concentrate on the first thing, that is number of covers required. How to calculate covers required, right? If I know expected covers or potential guests that I can expect how many people in a particular for a particular meal period. Okay, I need to know this one. I also need to know that average meal time in my restaurant. Average meal time is that how much time one person on average takes to finish his meal. We will talk about these things in detail. And the third one that I need is operating hours or available service period. If I know these three things, okay, I can calculate or we can calculate how many covers required. Now the first thing is expected covers or potential guests, that is how many people do I expect for a meal period. This is a number that you get from your market survey. When you do your market survey initially, you would know that what is the demand in the market for this kind of outlet and how many people can be expected. Also your competitors, studying of your competitors also gives a figure that what is the expected number, okay, for a particular meal time. Particular meal time is that do I expect anybody in a breakfast or not? If yes, how many people? Do I expect anybody in the lunch time? If I expecting, this is not a guaranteed number. Remember, this is not a guaranteed number, this is expected number. So the study of a market and study of your competitors will give you this number that expected. So think that you might expect 150 covers for a dinner. Okay, that is something that you got it from the surroundings and the guest interest that they've shown in the survey and your competitors how they are doing their business. The second thing is average meal time. Average meal time is basically how much time one person takes to finish his meal in your outlet if you open. This depends on the type of menu that you have and the service time that time you take to serve them, the how speed that fast can you serve them. So average meal time is basically something that is in your hand, that you will get to know that what kind of a menu am I offering. If it is a lavish specialty restaurant, and then the food would obviously take 20 minutes to prepare and then serve them, and then they have to because they are going to eat in the leisure time. So the meal time is going to be somewhere around 60 minutes or maybe a little more also, because that they are there to spend time, not just to eat something. If it is a fast food outlet or something that is open during the daytime, okay, not a great menu. You are not offering a very four-course menu, or maybe not a substantial meal. You just have something like kathi rolls, sandwiches, burgers. This kind of preparation, menu doesn't take more, much time to prepare and serve. So the serving time and the preparation time decreases drastically, so things can be served within 5 to 10 minutes time, and then obviously guests also will take much time to eat such kind of food. So the average meal time may be somewhere around 20 minutes to 30 minutes range. So depending on what menu that we are offering, how fast can you serve that meal decides average meal time, which we already know that what menu are we going to offer and how fast are we going to be. So this number we get it from those things. So you have to decide that what would be the average meal time in my restaurant. The third thing is operating hours or available service period. This is something that also is in your hand, that what have you planned about the opening of operating the outlet for lunch, dinner, or a breakfast, or is it going to be throughout? Is it going to be 24 hours? What is the service time? What are the opening hours of your restaurant? That is what we need to take from there. And then once we know those three elements, using those three elements, you can calculate a minimum covers required. Average service time, that is available service time, is that what is the total meal time divided by average meal time. That will give us the possible turnovers, that how many times can you reset each cover in your restaurant in that meal time is a possible turnovers. Expected covers divided by possible turnovers will give you minimum covers required. This is how I calculated how many covers would I be requiring a minimum in my restaurant. Now once we go back and see this formula, that in this formula we got that the first element, which is the number of covers required, is how we know that how to calculate it, and we have done it. Now let's talk about the second element, which is space required for one cover. Space required for one cover. In this slide, we will calculate on average, how much space we would be needing to set one cover. Okay, that consists of the moving area and the cover layout, the seating arrangement, everything. Now this dotted square is what we have. This is what we identified as some area in which we are going to set 4 covers, a table for 4. Now what you see here is a table, a square table, and 4 covers around it. This is table of 4. In this, the area or length or breadth of this one, the square, one side of this is divided into few parts. A is identified as a moving space behind the chair. A is a moving space behind the chair. If you see here, from here to here is the space behind the chair. And then B is the width of a chair. How much is the width of a chair on average? And then C is the width of a table. What would be the width of a table from this end to this end? And it repeats again because I have another chair over here, and behind the chair I will be leaving some space. Okay, one side. But now I need to know how much is A, B, C, so that I can calculate the total width of this area. Okay. With the guidelines, using the guidelines, the moving space behind the chair is supposed to be minimum 1 feet. That is to pull and push the chair, make them comfortable, and also to move around the restaurant, the guest or staff members. That's a minimum space that you need to leave behind a chair, 1 feet. And one chair usually occupies a 0.5 feet, that is 1.5 feet, 18 centimeters width wise. And the table for 4 people, generally a 3 feet table accommodates 4 covers comfortably. So 3 feet is the width of it, and again we repeated 18, that is 1.5 feet and 1 feet. Now calculating this thing, the other side of the square or area is also obviously the same, which is going to be exactly, diagonally other side is also going to be the same. The total length and breadth of this area, square area, is 8 feet either side. In all sides are 8 feet. If you calculate 1 feet, 1.5 feet plus 3 feet plus 1.5 plus 1. So 8 feet is a one side. So when we know the one side of a square, we can obviously calculate the area of a square, which is a space for 4 covers that is required is 8 into 8, which is 64 square feet. This table of 4 is taking 64 square feet area, minimum 64 square feet area to set 4 covers on it. Now, if you divide that by 4, you get a space for 1 cover, which is on average you require 16 square feet per cover. That's a minimum space that is required for 1 cover. This is in general normal seating conditions. This may change if your seating arrangements are a little lavish, lounge in areas. The average cover space required for one cover is going to change, because their seating arrangements are like a sofas and highly upholstered places. Okay, and a bar, it is going to be different. So depending on the situation, these may change, but in general the dining areas or dining restaurants, this is quite reasonable and acceptable space required for 1 cover, which is 16 square feet area. Now, to calculate space required for dining, I have a number of covers required and space required for 1 cover, and then the total space required, that is for the total restaurant to be established. For that, space required for dining, which I have calculated from top, plus some miscellaneous to be added for all your side stations, buffet counters and bar counters, which usually we take it as a 25% of the dining area and add it onto it. Space required for dining plus 25% extra to that one, plus space required for supporting area. Now, space required for supporting area can be calculated with the ratios that we have, that is 70 and 30%. The above space required for dining and miscellaneous, if they make it 70%, you need to find out what is the other 30%, add it up, then you get 100%, which is the total space required for establishing an outlet. After we have talked about how to calculate the space required for establishing an outlet, now it's time for understanding recruiting the staff. Whenever you are recruiting a staff, you must see that what is the objective of actually recruiting a staff. Look at a few points. First thing is that a staff guest ratio, which is the most important aspect when you are recruiting staff. What is the staff guest ratio? Is for how many cars, how many staff would be required. The ratio of guest and staff in your establishment or in your outlet is need to be calculated and come to a conclusion when before you start recruiting. If it is a complex service design, if you have a complex service design in your outlet and it is going to be a specialty restaurant, a fine dining, then you would require more staff members for each guest that who come in to dine with you. If it is a casual dining restaurant, then you don't need so many staff members. So that is how you decide, conclude on what would be your staff guest ratio. The next point is kitchen efficiency. that your kitchen efficiency determines a bit in your service staff recruitment. The kitchen, if it is very efficient and they can deliver products much quicker, faster and efficiently, then you would require minimum staff to handle your guest. If the kitchen is not very well organized, if it takes a little more time and the process is little complex, then you require more people to operate your restaurant. Another thing that you need to keep in mind is your labor cost, the budgeted labor cost. In your initial budget, what is the segment of your budget is allocated for paying salaries? So this labor cost budget directly affects or determines the staff that you are going to recruit. Service design and its complexity is another point that you need to keep in mind while recruiting the staff. Modern techniques in use, if your restaurant has got advanced equipment that requires minimal effort by the staff members or service personnel, then obviously you don't need to recruit many people, because much of the work is taken care, or it is supported by the modern techniques that are used or the machines that are installed. Those are the objectives while recruiting the staff for your outlet. Now, how many people do I need to recruit? If it is already existing a restaurant, then there is a formula or some calculation that you need to do based on their productivity and the expected guest, etc. But if it is a new outlet, you know, and you are recruiting the staff for the first time for this outlet, then there are some general guidelines that are there to determine that how many people would you recruit. These general guidelines, for a specialty restaurant, for each 30 covers you would require 2 stewards and 1 supervisor to handle 30 guests. It is in a specialty restaurant where it is usually a fine dining, and service design is little elaborate and luxurious. In those places, for every 30 guests you require 2 stewards and 1 supervisor. Whereas for a coffee shop where you have a casual dining, for every 50 covers you require 3 stewards and 1 supervisor per shift. As you say, coffee shops usually run 24 hours a day, and every shift you require 3 stewards and 1 supervisor for each of 50 covers. If a coffee shop is 150 covers, you have to multiply this number into 3. That is, you require 9 stewards and 3 supervisors approximately to handle a shift if it is 150 covers restaurant. Okay. After talking about recruiting the staff, now it's time to talk about how seating plan to be done, or seating arrangements, the seating at a dining area can be arranged. There are various points to keep in mind while you plan and arrange this seating. You need to achieve more, it's always better to have more moving space, which is a comfortable moving space around the tables and chairs. That can be achieved by placing the tables diagonal to the walls instead of putting them along the walls. When you place the tables diagonal to the chairs will occupy the corners, and you get a better moving area. Also, when you have these tables arranged diagonal to each other, the chair backs of 2 tables don't come right opposite. That saves a lot of space, or gives a better moving space between the tables. if you have a very large restaurant and a guest walks into the restaurant, it shouldn't look like a banquet hall. So to avoid this kind of banquet look in a large restaurants, usually the designers opt for breaking the view by elevating some parts of the seating, that is some parts of the restaurant. If there is a long restaurant with 100 covers and somebody enters from one end and it looks like a very narrow, long banquet hall with nice tables arranged. But if you want to have a fine dining look atmosphere, then this long restaurant, some part of the restaurant is elevated a bit than the other part, and you have a seating over that elevation, so that the one long view of looking like a monotonous look will break because of this elevation. This technique is used in many restaurants. We may observe in many large restaurants that are situated in five-star hotels and all. The few tables are elevated or kind of a dais kind of thing, and then you have a tables set up on that. Also, it is advisable to do a glass partitions or screens or alcoves between adjacent tables to give the guest a privacy or intimate dining experience for both the parties that are dining on other tables. This also saves the space. If you have two tables kept next to each other and for saving the space, and also give them their privacy, because they are two different tables actually, you can have a screen between them or a glass partition which gives them their individual private dining experience. And also see that there are no side stations that are located or arranged in the middle of dining area. They are supposed to be adjacent to the walls, or maybe if you have any pillars in between, it need to be attached to the pillar and arranged over there, but definitely not in the middle of a dining area, because this gives a lot of disturbance noise in around the further around tables, because it's actually the side stations are functional areas, highly functional areas, and there is a lot of movement that happens around these side stations. If you have this as an island side station, the tables that are around this island side station will have a lot of disturbance. So avoid such kind of things and have them on to a side. As they say, they are supposed to be side stations. They are supposed to be along the wall sides, or maybe attached to a pillar if it is a very large restaurant. Arrangement of sofa seating and individual chairs can be a great choice to the guests, because not everybody would be comfortable sitting on sofas, or neither some not everybody can sit on chairs. So arrangement of sofa and chairs is supposed, they got to be balanced. But on logically thinking, for dining, that is for eating purpose, sofas are not advisable, because they give a very sinking feeling, and they don't give a upright sitting posture to eat your meal. So it is always a chair that is preferred at a dining table. But also the families and the people who come with infants and kids would require to have some sofa seating. That's why most restaurants prefer to give some choice of sofa seating along with the dining chairs. Also, when you have a seating arrangements, looking when you are looking into seating arrangement, it is also advised or suggested to have some large tables for the groups and families to be accommodated. Not always go for table for four, table for two, which are most commonly required tables. but there are at times of the location where you are, your outlet is there. With that also depends that whether you get more of groups or families, large groups and family members together, or a friend circle, very big friend circle, depending on what kind of guest that you are expecting, what is your target market, accordingly you need to decide on your table sizes.